Welcome to Marketing Monday Live with me, Liezel V. I've got our guest marketing and media and communications specialist, Gasant Abarder, as I swallow my words in excitement to welcome you. Nice to have you on Marketing Monday.
It's great to be on your show.
It's not live, it's pre-record today.
Yeah, but it's like the old days. We were colleagues.
Yes, we used to work together in media and we used to work radio.
Yep.
But now, Marketing Monday, for those of you who are joining us on the pre-record today, not Marketing Monday Live, is all about uplifting small businesses in the community, giving business, marketing, and communications advice. And before we touch on some hard-hitting questions with you, Gasant, what business during lockdown has really impressed you? What business would you like to promote and we should all be following on social media?
So I'm sitting in one right now. In the studios at Live Forever Productions, what they do is they have complete solutions for businesses, whether you want to do above-the-line marketing with advertising or you want to do stuff on social media. At the minute, they're busy with a production for a Cape Town artist. He's called Brucci. They're doing an hour-and-a-half long production for him. Theatres moved away from the stage and onto the screens now.
Which has been hard.
With a new normal.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they have a solution here. And for me, it's quite easy to come in here, shoot entire episodes within like 20 minutes and leave with a ready-to-edit package. So for me as a content producer, they offer a fantastic service. Audio, lights, cameras, it's all here. High-end stuff.
So completely different from my home office where I normally shoot Marketing Monday Live. They are liveforever.co.za. We'll post their details down below.
4 is a digit.
Yes,
Yeah.
4. And then quickly tell me about the show that they're busy promoting and busy working on, the one that's happening in October.
So on October 25, they're going to revolutionize local production. So what you're really buying into is a really special show of the journey of a Cape Flats performer, gone full circle. And in the new normal, they're giving you a show where for 70 Rand per household.
Nothing?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to leave your house. You can sit there in your pajamas. You don't have to shell out for snacks for the family.
Or parking?
Yeah. Or your it doesn't even cover your petrol to the theatre. So it also creates a new market for theatre of theatre goers. People who don't traditionally go to the theatre are now interested. And we have to support local. You know, there's a lot of local artists there who are battling at the moment to earn an income.
And a lot of business owners also battling when it comes to doing things live and to camera. And you were one of the people that during lockdown cancelled your social media accounts because I thought you'd actually blocked me and I couldn't find you anywhere. And I was about to pick up the phone and go, Gasant, have I done something? Because I can't find you anywhere. What did I do? And I was looking at your wife's posts and I couldn't see you tagged in anything. And I was going, what's going on? Why did you do that in the middle of lockdown?
Look, I think I was doing social media wrong.
Okay.
And I was actually, even though I had a verified account, I was verified because of the area of work that I specialized in. But I was I was angry tweeting, and I was tweeting at brands and getting into fights with people. And I also found that I was addicted to the social part of social media, which there's a new show on Netflix that people would do well to watch. It's a documentary called Social Dilemma.
Yes, I've seen it.
And it really is a good way to make you understand the pitfalls of social media. But now that I've got a new brand, and part of that brand is helping people who engage in the social media space and in any media. Because look, if you've got a Facebook account, you're a publisher. You can get yourself into trouble, you can get fired, you can get arrested like Penny Sparrow. So the idea is to give them hacks from a professional journalist on how to avoid getting into trouble, but at the same time, how to grow your personal brand and your business.
And that's really vital. And a lot of people don't understand when I say a personal brand can actually affect your business.
Yeah.
And so many times people make a mistake, like this Penny Sparrow. She wasn't working for a certain company. However, it was linked onto one or other social media account and people started to attack the company.
Yeah.
And companies don't actually spend time educating their staff on the vital of and importance of personal brand. What's one piece of advice you can give to companies when it comes to their staff's personal brand?
Have a social media policy, for starters. And why that's important is you can hold people accountable, but at the same time, you need to make it a working policy where you actually canvass it and workshop it with your staff so that they don't get themselves into that kind of trouble. And linked to that also is there's no such thing as This is a private account.
Yes, that doesn't count.
Because if you're Liezel van der Westhuizen and you tied to the Giraffe brand, you can't say, oh no, I did this in my personal capacity.
No.
Because you need to eat, live, breathe that brand.
And time again, I see people have set up their person, and I see it with journalists. A lot of journalists as well have got, this is my own account, retweets on my own account. And that is so wrong. And so many people don't understand.
Yeah, that werkt nie.
Doesn't work.
I'll
don't do
I'll
that.
tell you why it doesn't work. So
Yeah.
if I follow a very good court journalist, right, I don't want to know her opinion. Because all that means is that you're clouding the public take on it. You need to give me with enough information for me to make a decision as a viewer. I don't want to hear your opinion unless I'm qualified to do so or I'm asked my opinion.
That's so true. And then what's a vital business, social media business account that people should be on, that all business owners or entrepreneurs should have as one of their social media accounts in their stable?
Yeah. So I think Facebook is probably the oldest and it's probably the one with the most kind of audience reach.
Especially in South Africa.
Yeah. And there's a lot of tools built into Facebook that's very useful, like Facebook Live. We can sit here and we can go live. I mean, with your phone, with your smartphone, and a little bit of data. That's all you need. And I think Twitter's important, but Twitter is, I always tell people, Twitter's that angry kid in the class. And
The angry
if you
stepbrother.
get it wrong, it's very difficult to dial back. I don't know why Twitter doesn't have an edit button. And I suppose the argument is that you need to protect your brand, and that's where you need to be the sharpest. I do think there's value in Instagram though, but how you do Instagram is also very important. Like there's a few people out there and companies who do it really well. And the art is not talking about the obvious because you can see the obvious. It's about enhancing the content on there, with your words.
And educating people as
Exactly.
well. So you mentioned Facebook Live. Are there any tips for people who are going live on Facebook? What are your tips and advice? Because so many people get it wrong.
So I think what you need, first of all, is a very sterile background. You don't want to be distracted by what's happening in the background unless what's happening in the background is pertinent. Pertinent to what you're trying to showcase.
Yes.
And Liezel's so good at branding, eh? And
The giraffe everywhere.
yeah. So the idea is that if you want people to focus on you, right, and what you have to say, you don't need noise in the background. Unless you're reporting live somewhere and you're showcasing what's happening in the background. Also, what you wear is important. Like you're wearing neutral colors, even though it's a very fetching design. You don't want your colors to bleed off into the screen.
What does that mean, bleed off into the screen? So everyday
if I'm
terms.
wearing a red shirt, for example, it's going to make a noise on screen. The color is going to make noise. And granted, a lot of the new cameras have the technology to cope. But at the same time, I might be wearing a very fine print stripe or check shirt, and it's going to make a noise on camera. So people are going to switch off. They're going to watch the shirt, and it's going to distract them, They're not going to listen or pay attention. Also, I think your audio is important. You don't want people battling to hear what you have to say. So if you invest in a little microphone, they're not expensive. You can go to like Chinatown and get a lot of equipment for very cheap. You also don't want your viewers to get seasick. So if you can invest in a little tripod that supports your smartphone, stick it up on the tripod. You can have a selfie view because you don't want your camera shaking all the time,
If I have to see this once more on a live video, I actually tune out. So that is really vital.
If you're serious about it, you can think about a gimbal as well.
So a gimbal, explain what a gimbal is, just for someone who doesn't know what it is.
So a gimbal is a mobile rig. Some gimbals support audio and light fittings as well. And it's a handheld device that balances out. It's like a Steadicam, but a handheld Steadicam. And you can shoot the most amazing quality videos on the move. So while you're talking, you can broadcast,
It's really vital to have these pieces of equipment, and people don't realize how important it is when it is when you go live and when you do these little things. It makes a big tune-out factor, a yes or a no. It makes people stay with you or not. For you, having been in media, you've seen how media has changed. You started out as a journalist, you've been an editor, you now work in media and communications. How has the world evolved in terms of people and businesses dealing with the media?
Look, I think we're going through a massive disruption at the moment as we're sitting here with COVID-19. I've seen some of my former colleagues, how they've adapted to it in amazing ways. And I've seen other people fall down because they just can't imagine the new media. And I also think before that, social media was the game changer. So I think where it's been felt hardest is probably the most traditional media platform, and that's print.
Yeah.
So newspapers, books, magazines have suffered the worst.
Yeah, we saw that in lockdown in South Africa.
We've seen newspaper publications close down, unfortunately. Nobody likes to see it. But at the same time, what happened when there was disruption? When newspapers had their Kodak moment, nobody uses film anymore. Newspapers had a moment when they were making big money and they didn't think what's going to happen in 20 years' time. When ink runs out, paper runs out, what are we going to do then?
Yeah.
And the internet forced them to think differently, but they were very comfortable in those zones. So it's a bit of adapt and die, survival of the fittest. The people who are going to transcend the new normal are the people who can carry a little gorilla pod, a mini tripod around
Yes.
and they can imagine high-end video anywhere, in any space, for any how can I say, adapted anywhere,
Now, but that also gives rise to fake news. And I want to touch on your online show that you started just about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And then to one of the episodes where you had your parents, which I can relate to. So it's a twofold question. First, tell us about the show and how it started and where people can catch it.
So, with apologies to Mrs. van der Westhuizen of Victoria and Mr. and Mrs. Abarder here around the corner. So, where that idea came from? Like, I was August editor and I used to come home after a shift in the newsroom and my dad would tell me, oh, it was in the August today. And most of the time, you would have read the headline or the intro and you had the story completely wrong.
True.
So the idea is that now it's far more pervasive because we've got WhatsApp and we're getting stuff from neighborhood watchers. And people are sending things on chat groups and it's very dangerous. We saw with the clicks hair debacle, it went viral very quickly.
Yes.
And it had the EFF leader calling for a call to arms, really, for people to attack. And then that was interpreted as attack click stores. And the people didn't really have the context. The problem with fake news is there's different categories. So fake news in its purest form, if I can call it that, is when you after clicks. It's a money-making device. So you make people click on something.
It's not clicks as in the
no.
The shop clicks.
Click on
as
a
in
link.
Clickbait.
Click on a link. Clickbait. Exactly that. So it's clickbait because you want to up your numbers and your views, and that translates into. But longer term, it's stupid because nobody's going to come back to your site because you're unreliable. The second bit of fake news is called disinformation. So it's deliberate disinformation to change a political thing or to change a situation. So propaganda would be closely tied to disinformation, but disinformation is more also when people use purveyors of credible news and in their inexperience and naivety, they become negligent. So they put disinformation out without knowing it, but there are motives behind it. And then propaganda is the other one where the politicians
they love those.
are just pushing the letter, and like a lot of what Donald Trump calls fake news is actually propaganda, So it's important to know those distinctions because you need to know what you're dealing with. But also, on the flip side of that, you can get yourself into serious trouble. There are laws passed during COVID-19 and regulations for people. They've limited how much people you can broadcast to.
Yes, on WhatsApp, I think you can only get 5. And in South Africa, the laws have changed. We saw Samizi.
Yeah.
He went onto radio. One of the celebs in South Africa went onto radio and he said that we were going to go into lockdown 4 or 5. I can't remember the full story. And
it came from a minister or something?
He said it came from a minister and he got arrested.
Well, they threatened to arrest him.
Yes.
And it's ironic because the two people involved, the Minister of
Transport,
Fikile Mbalula, and Sumisi, are very big on social media. And it's also about protecting your brand. Sumisi has no business talking about a lockdown level changing.
Unless, because he was on radio and he's on Metro FM, unless it was verified.
Exactly.
Then yes.
Or he pre-attributed as saying, okay, I've just heard from the Minister of Transport and this is the gospel.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, and that's what happened.
But the problem is that the Minister of Transport does not concern himself only with transport. It's all about what he's wearing and what he's driving and where he's eating. I don't care. You know, I don't, like, and that's important. Why that's important is you don't set out to build a cult. You actually build a credible content base. And it's a long haul, you know. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. You have to build your brand very carefully, very meticulously, because the damage you can do to your business is profound.
Absolutely, and people don't realize that. They don't realize they think personal brand just happens in 24 hours or 48 hours. And you don't realize how long the journey actually takes. And you have to have a plan.
Yeah.
You can't just set out here and think you're going to end up there in 3 or 5 years if you don't have a plan. Getting back to the fake news, you had an episode on your podcast or your YouTube channel about fake news. Where can people watch that, and what's the name of the show?
Okay, so I started a content platform called Loudhouse Media. You can dial into it at... do people still say that?
I don't know, but I like saying that.
Tune in on...
You're giving your age away now.
Loudhouse, yeah, I am, from the 90s. Loudhousemedia.co.za. And on there is a little bit of about information, who I am. But there's also the live part of it is my vlog. So they drop every Friday morning, and it's called Disruptive Native. There's also a print column that comes out quarterly, and it's all about disruption. What is a disruption? It's in the lives of all of us. I mean, if you've got a smartphone and you're broadcasting content, you are a content producer, whether you like it or not. And there are rules. There are certain rules that go with publishing. And you can't say, but hold on, I'm an architect. I'm not a journalist, because the rules apply. You're going to be sued for defamation, whether you're an architect or
a journalist
or a lawyer.
What are those rules? What should I be following before I go either live or post a video live?
I think if you work for an organization and even if you have private social media accounts, find out if they've got a social media policy, because the first step is not breaking your internal rules.
And you can't say I didn't know.
Yeah. No, you can't. It's not a defense.
No.
But also, think about whether you'd say something to somebody's face. And if you won't, but you'll put it on a social media post, that's probably a good test to show you that you probably shouldn't put that out there, right?
Would you send it to your grandmother?
Also remember that when an employer hires you, the first thing they're going to look at is your social media platforms. So if that night out at the strip club is not the place to take your phone out and do a Facebook Live, please.
No.
Put your phone away, you know. Don't post when you're drunk or you're intoxicated. Don't get intoxicated.
Don't drink and drive. Don't tweet and drive. Don't social media and drink. Yeah.
But the idea is that I think the best social media platforms, whether it's a business or a personal platform, is when people are themselves. When I speak to you outside, I want to be the same person I am when I step in front of a camera. And a lot of people get it wrong. So your values in front of the camera or on screen or on your social media platforms need to be the same as when you're off the camera. So I can't sit here and then preach about gender-based violence, but in the meantime, I'm busy beating my wife at home. You know, it's not going to work. People are going to see through you. So I know that's an extreme example.
That's a very extreme.
But I mean, in your brand life, you need to be the same. And if you opt in for a Twitter, you need to know that there are no office hours, unfortunately.
Yep.
So if something happens on a Friday night, I'm sorry for your social media manager. They're going to have to deal with it. Because if you wait until Monday, you are dead.
That was the Clicks example, actually, because it happened over a weekend.
Yeah.
And it took a long time. The response did come, and there's been debate whether it was the good or wrong response, but it was over a weekend, and it took some time to get everything. And by that time, everything had spiraled. So you
need a strategy.
Yes.
You need to have a scenario, a risk plan or a risk aversion plan. So what happens if something like that happens on a Friday night? Who's on standby? What can I say without having to get through the bureaucracy? So always a safe response is, we've noted what you've said. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. People just want to be heard most of the time.
They do, yes.
So if your audience is riled up with you, the worst thing that you can do is to ignore them. Acknowledge them, then quickly seek an answer and keep it and be quick about it.
And also give a timeline. I find people, they want to be acknowledged, and then you want to say to
By
them,
close of business today.
exactly, or by close of business tomorrow. And a lot of people forget that.
Yeah.
A lot of businesses actually forget the importance of social media and the weekend. So that's a really good tip. Should you have someone in place? Should there be, because I know in radio we have an IT person on standby 24 hours. Should businesses have the same when it comes to social media?
Absolutely. You can't afford to switch off, because the time when you switch off, that's probably the time where you're most vulnerable, you know, and it is Saturdays, because people are going to come into your business on a Saturday. If you're a big retailer, they're going to find a product that's off or stale, and that's the worst kind of iteration of it, because they're going to post a picture and now your brand's in trouble. You're saying you offer quality food, and here they're showing a stale loaf of bread.
Yes.
So how do you respond to that? You know, you have to be agile and on your feet, and you need to be able to think about your customer. So it puts the power into the hands of the consumer, because you're giving them that right to interact with your brand. So your brand needs to stand up to scrutiny. So you need to invest in that.
And that's where people get it wrong. What tips do you have for people when it comes to responding to a customer or relating to a customer with something like that? If it's something that's stale, we often see brands don't reply quickly enough, or this was stale, or this was off.
Yeah. Look, for me, the best advice is retain your sense of humor. You know, I know that the person out there feels like they've been wronged and it's the end of the world. But I think the brands who do it best, they have a little bit of irreverence about them, right? So they will say, oops, we didn't mean to waste your dough if it's bread, you know?
Love it.
You make light of it.
Yes.
But at the same time, you promise, please send me your number. Please, can we reimburse you? Because if you're a big brand, reimbursing that person and going out of your way doesn't cost you a lot of money. In fact, it's going to enhance your brand in the eyes of consumers, that you're responsive, you take your promise seriously about quality. And I just think you need to be responsive, you know, and listen.
And that's the main thing, listen and be responsive. For businesses that are looking to deal with an influencer, what tips and advice do you have for businesses out there?
Do your homework. Do background checks, because that influencer will inevitably be, if something happens to that person, there is a risk. So that person is going to be linked back to your company. So if you're a business that prides itself in organic food, and this brand social influencer is seen having a burger.
We saw that with the US model,
Yeah.
where she was a vegan and endorsing all these vegan brands and being paid, and then she was caught in a burger shop.
Well, exactly. So you've illustrated it perfectly there, that you have to, I mean, there's a lot of money at stake, these endorsements. It's like an athlete that's endorsed by a certain brand wearing a different brand's clothing. I mean, it's unheard of, you know? And you just need to do your homework, do your research, do your cross-checks, because ultimately your brand's going to hurt. But at the same time, if you invest in the right fit, there's going to be untold benefits for you. I mean, if I'm a car brand, I want Liezel van der Westhuizen driving my car. Or if I produce mountain bikes or bicycles, for example, your brand represents fitness, well-being, healthy lifestyle. I want to get you on my mountain bike. So I don't think our initial response must be a negative one.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we need to do our homework, that the person is a consistent brand ambassador. What is their track record? And how did they build that brand? Because there's people that they've worked hard to build those brands, you know?
Now, you started your online show. What are some of the hard lessons that you've learned from the first couple of episodes that you've put out?
Use microphones. And I've actually gone back on that very first lesson, because you find yourself in situations where, you know, because you're learning as you go along. So I shot some links yesterday where it was very windy. And when I came back to do the edit, the links look really good. But the audio could have, with a proper mic, you know, that cut the wind out. So those are small lessons. I don't think the audience minds that much, but ultimately you also have them in mind, you know. They're your audience, and you can't buy that kind of loyalty. So I also learned that over-scripting is a bad thing as well with television, because it's a very, very personal medium. If you're reading, they'll know you're reading.
And they can see. I've seen people do it so many times, reading the auto cue, and actually sounds like they're reading.
Yeah. And I think this kind of conversation we're having now is far more watchable than I'm reading from a script like a newsreader, you know? So those are the two lessons, I think, and there'll be more along the way. I think I'm waiting for that big thing to crash or whatever. It's inevitable, but you learn quickly and don't be discouraged. If you're a social media content producer or whatever content you're producing, you have to fail. Do it quickly, learn from it, and move on, you know?
But so many people are scared of going live. And time again, I've trained business owners, I've trained entrepreneurs about going live and giving them tips. What have you learned about going live? Because you've gone from being media and writing to being in the front of the camera quite quickly, because social media turned around so quickly.
Yeah. So a lot of people remember me from a TV first career, and then most of my career was spent in print, which is a kind of a weird way to do it. And I was very uncomfortable in front of the camera as a 19, 20-year-old. I didn't think I belonged there. My voice sounded, I wanted to cringe when I heard my voice. So it's about building your confidence. It's about doing your homework. Because you don't want to go on live and not know what you're talking about.
True.
You have to do the research. You have to do the hard work. Because everybody thinks it's glamorous.
Yes, and you can just do this.
But I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it. There's makeup, doing your hair, looking good, because you're projecting your image as well. And all of those things we can't take for granted, you know? Have you got the correct lighting? Are you shooting?
The lighting.
Are you shooting in front in front of a window?
Yes.
Where all you're going to see is a silhouette. You know, those are the things we take for granted. And I also tell people, read and watch other people. Find somebody that you aspire to and benchmark yourself against that person. Or watch TV and watch the edits. And think about storytelling. How can you tell this bit of content in a different way that's more engaging? Like the episode I shot with my parents. You know, you could relate to it. And I knew you would, because I didn't have to put on, this was really going to happen. When I opened the door, you could see my dad waiting there to tell me this half-baked story.
Yes.
You know?
And your mom was sitting on her phone.
On her phone.
Yes.
So, and I found them like that. It wasn't staged or anything like that.
And you could actually see that.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. It's about being real. It's about being authentic. And it's about knowing what you're going to say.
Yeah.
So for people who didn't catch and they've just tuned in too late, where can we catch your weekly episode and what time does it come out?
Okay, so I drop them on all the main social media platforms. Loudhouse Media is my content hub platform. Loudhousemedia.co.za. It's on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And then I've also got a YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, comment.
Comment,
We
especially
love the
comment.
engagement.
Ask
And
questions.
Thanks for all the positive comments, Liezel.
I have to post comments because we've got to support each other. And
we
especially the South African stuff coming out, because we're producing such great content. And people need to see that. And it's real. It's real life stuff that you're chatting about. So thank you.
And it's a very sincere attempt to help people navigate the media landscape, because it's a minefield out there.
It is. And so many times you see people get it wrong. And no one else is doing this.
And there's books coming down the track as well.
Tell me when the book is coming out.
So the first book comes out. The first book is a bit of a catch-all, just to give people an idea about my career as an editor. It's called Hack with a Grenade.
Hack with the Grenade.
It's coming out in December, if all goes well. And then I'm working on 2 other projects. The one's a very personal book, the book in the middle. It's about my midlife crisis that I've just navigated out of. But I also think why I did that book, it's important for guys like me to get destigmatized and to face up to our mental health issues and our mental well-being, you know?
And a lot of people don't speak about that.
No, we must talk about it, especially now. With,
especially men.
Yeah. And going through what we've just gone through the last few months. And then I'm working on a textbook with a co-author who's a former editor as well. It's a journalism textbook.
Oh, wow.
But it's going to be such an engaging textbook that anybody can work from it, from a content producer to a journalist to a student, having it in newsrooms, but also the man on the street who has a Facebook account, you know?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Where are you getting time for all of this?
I'm doing it. You have to.
No, you just have to.
You have to put in the hard yards, and you will reap the rewards.
And that's the thing. It's about putting the time in and reaping the rewards at the end of the day. Gasant, thank you so much for joining us live on Marketing Monday pre-record right here at Live Forever Studios, liveforever.co.za. We did it pre-record because we wanted to promote a small business doing great things in the community. That's why we're live here today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And if you want to reach out to Gasant, you've got any questions, contact details down below. If you've got a suggestion for a guest that we should host on Marketing Monday Live, please post that as well. And I'll catch you next Monday at noon. Thanks for joining us.